Hey guitar friends, welcome to All About Guitar Academy. Bob Strom here. I help people 50 and up learn how to play the guitar, and today we're going to talk about how to play bar chords and to help you better understand the best way to play these. That's coming right up, so grab your guitar and we'll get started in the lesson. Are you a brand new beginner guitar player and you're struggling with learning bar chords? Well, you came to the right video. My name is Bob Strom. I specialize in helping people 50 and up learn how to play the guitar. And today we're going to talk about bar chords. Before we get started on the lesson today, I just wanted to let you know, if you're brand new at guitar, you need some extra help, make sure you download my Fast Start Kit. It's at my website, bobstrom.com. Make sure you grab it today. Let's get started in the lesson. All right, what are bar chords and what are they all about? Well, bar chords basically mean that you're going to bar one of the frets, usually with your index finger, which I call finger number 1. So for example, we have what we call the 0 nut up here, and that's kind of like a bar. If you've seen a capo before, that is also able to be placed on the fretboard of the guitar just over any fret that you choose. That also bars all of the strings on a certain fret. And with our index finger, the challenge as a beginner is learning how to bar all of the strings on one fret. And that is a normal challenge, especially for beginners and for people that have hand injuries or arthritis, you name it. It's not an easy thing to do. I'll just say that. But it is easy if you start out conditioning your finger and placing it in the right place on the fretboard of the guitar. And I'll explain. So we're going to be using our index finger. And instead of starting on this first fret up here where the strings are a little bit harder to press down on, I'm going to come up here to fret number 3, okay? And the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my finger is able to press down on all 6 strings at the same time and play each note, all right? And that might be tough to do at first, but this is a good exercise for us to get started. So let's start on fret number 3, and this is an example of fret number 3 bar chord, which would be a G major. But we're not going to do the complete chord right now. We're just going to focus on the one finger. But if you'll notice here, finger number 1 is completely stretched out, covering up all the strings. So it's important that we know that our thumb is going to need to be behind the neck of the guitar, not way up here. I know on open chords like E minor and D major, the thumb is up here. But for bar chords, we want to bring our thumb back here. And it's either, depending on the size of your hands and your fingers, we're either going to be down here or up here towards the middle. It really depends. But I want you to pay attention to your thumb. Make sure it's in the right spot because you're going to need it for leverage. Next thing we're going to do is take our index finger and we're going to lay it across all the strings on fret number 3, but we're not going to be in the middle of the fret. We're going to be up here, right almost on top of that fret, that bar there. And we're going to bar it with our index finger, and I want you to try that and play all the strings one at a time like this. All right. How does that feel? Did you have strings that were buzzing? Did it not feel right? Did it hurt? Those are all things to take into consideration. If you felt pain, you want to make sure that your thumb is in the right place behind the neck of the guitar, or that your finger is tilted more this way. So in other words, we want the bony part of our index finger to be pressing down on all the strings. And you'll see where my thumb is. That's where it works best for me. So try that again. Adjust if you need to. Tilt your index finger that way a little bit. So in other words, you're turning it like this. Another thing to keep in mind is your elbow. You want to make sure your elbow is close to your body. Ergonomically, it should feel much more comfortable that way. And we want to make sure that it's not hurting too much to press down on all the strings. If you're doing this on an acoustic guitar, it might be a lot tougher. Well, I know it's going to be tougher. If you have an electric guitar, try it on an electric first. So what we're going to do is play each string again. Here we go. All right. How did that feel? It may have felt really uncomfortable and you might have heard some buzzing. So you want to keep practicing that. And then what I recommend you do is as you master go to the next fret up and then go backwards the other way. And so on. Okay, and just do it up the fretboard until it feels like it's too tough to do. So that's finger number 1. Now what about the rest of the fingers? Well, I've got good news for you. If you know how to play an E major chord, looks like this. I'll put it up here for you. Now, instead of playing your E major like this, I want to challenge you, switch your fingers to where you're playing your E major with your middle finger on the first fret of the 3rd string, and then finger number 3 and finger number 4, your pinky, playing the rest of the notes here. All right, so it should still sound like this. But you'll notice I've got my index finger sticking up, and you guessed it, that's because we're going to use it to bar. So if we wanted to go from E major to F major, for example, we would just slide that E major up a half of a step, because E to F is a half step. You want to write that down. E to F is a half step up on the guitar. And what we're going to do is take that E major, slide it up a half step, 1 fret. Then we're going to take our index finger like we just learned how to do. We're going to bar that first fret, all 6 strings. Now we have an F major chord if we play those strings. Okay? And that's F major. Now what if we wanted to do a G major? Well, we would need to find our G root note, which is right here. That is the fret we're going to bar, and we're going to make that same E major chord shape and play all the strings from the 3rd fret the same way. All right. Now, I understand if you're following along with me, you might still be struggling with this, and that's why this takes a lot of practice. It really does. And you want to practice first with just the 1 finger, and you also want to practice the E major with these 3 fingers instead of these 3. So let's try that one more time, but let's find a different chord on the fretboard. What if we wanted to play an A major bar chord? Okay, well, all we have to do is find that root note. We've got E is the open note, F on the 1st fret, G. If we went up a half step, that'd be a G sharp. So a whole step up from G to A is right here. All right, and that's going to be on fret number 5, and we're just going to bar that fret and play the E major chord shape with it. That is an A major. Sounds just like this one almost. All right, but hear the fullness of this chord. You've got some really high highs, and the lows sound more full. So that's where the A major would be. Okay, so what if we wanted to play a B minor? Well, that's a tough chord, Bob. I've tried B minor. It doesn't agree with me. Hey, I totally understand. I feel your pain. Well, first we got to find the B root note, and we could do it on string number 6, say E, F, G, A, B, and play it right here. That's a B major. But what if we wanted to play a B minor? Well, do you remember how to play E minor? Looks like this. See my index finger still sticking up? Well, all I got to do is come up here to that B root note. And now if I play that E minor chord shape, so if I slide up from E all the way up here like this, that's a B minor. I just took my E minor, came up here to the root note B, and made that E minor chord shape. So now we know where B minor is on string number 6, making a bar chord. C minor, here's a tricky one for you. Where would C minor be? It's not a whole step up, it's a half step. So write that down. B to C is also a half step. So just like E to F is a half step, B to C is a half step, or just one fret up. So back down here to B, if we want to play C minor, we just go a half step up, which is one fret, and now we've got a C minor. And you guessed it, I can hear what you're thinking. So if that's B and C minor up here, I can play minor chords all the way up the fretboard by barring 6 strings, starting with E minor, which is open. I can go to F minor, F sharp minor, G minor, G sharp, A minor, B minor, or B flat minor. You see where I'm getting at? Because that way when you're challenged with playing a song and it's in B minor, and you're like, oh no, what do I do? Well, if you know how to play bar chords, you can get around the fretboard easier. I say easier because it's not as easy with all those fingers being used, but you can find the chords. So we just talked about major and minor chords using string 6 as a root note. What if we wanted to make things a little easier on our hands and our arm way up here and go over to string number 5 and start from there? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here's the way that works. What if we wanted to do a B minor? I know the sound of that might have made you cringe. It used to make me cringe to play in B minor. So we know that our A major is right here. Well, an A minor is like that, right? Okay. Well, what if we reverse our fingers again, just like we did with the E major, and we play the A minor like this? All right. Now to go to B minor, that would be a whole step because A to B would be 2 frets up the fretboard. So we go from A minor, that would be B flat or A sharp minor. Here's where the B minor is going to be, is right here on this B note on fret number 2 of string number 5. So we just move this A minor chord shape up 2 frets. We've got a B minor now. And then C minor, because C minor is a half step, 1 fret up. D minor, E minor, F minor. Wait, is F minor up here? No, it's only a half step. E to F is a half step, so it's right here. And then we want to play G minor, it's right here. Now we're back up here at A minor. All right, that is how you use string 6 and string 5 to play major bar chords and minor bar chords. But wait a minute, Bob, you left out major bar chords using string number 5 as a root note. You're right. So back to that A major chord. That shape there. Well, what if we played it with our 3rd finger? We just put it down as a bar on string number 2, 3, and 4 of the 2nd fret and played that A major like this. And now we need to play a B major, and we're going to use string 5 to find our root note. So we need to find B, which is right here. We know that. It's A, B on the 2nd fret. Now we're going to bar just like we did with the A major. That is a B major. It's the same as if we played it on string 6, E, F, G, A, B. Hear the similarity there? Here's B major using string 6 as a root note. And then here's B major using string 5 as a root note. Very similar, all right? Same chord, B major. Now, if we want to do C major, you guessed it right. We need to go to our root note, which is going to be a half step up, one fret. We do the same thing. Just sounds a little bit different. All right, so now you know how to do major and minor bar chords. The challenge is getting the notes to ring out and getting your fingers to hold the strings down, right? That is the toughest part of bar chords. So I want to encourage you, if you are just starting out on guitar and you want to learn bar chords, it might be too soon, but you've got this video to refer to. Or if you join our Academy VIP membership, you get training on this kind of stuff every single month. So I put a link in the description for you on that. But I want to encourage you, keep practicing until you know your basic chords like G, D, C, A, those types of chords. Learn those first before you go in to bar chords, okay? It's a totally different ball game. But I want to encourage you, and I want to see you in the next video. You might want to check this one out right here. All right. My name is Bob Strom with All About Guitar Academy, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.